Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2022 Porsche Mission R. Now this is built as a preview of potential all-electric racing cars for motorsport, so it's essentially a concept, although a working one. And yeah, a team of 30 from Porsche took a not very long at all to build this car, and it's essentially a bits and bolts kind of a vehicle, as it's got suspension that is borrowed from the likes of the Porsche 911 RSR, 911 GT3R and 718 Cayman GT4. And unlike a lot of battery vehicles, it's not don't keep the batteries on the underfloor. It's actually got the batteries behind the seats, so it's more like a mid-engine racer than a a typical EV. And it's also got its plastic body is reinforced by carbon fibre, while it has a carbon fibre roll cage as well for keeping the weight as low as possible, because obviously the big problem with EVs is the weight, as the batteries can be quite a lot of the weight of a car. In fact, the batteries in this are a third of this car's weight, 3,307 pounds overall, so a third of that is quite a lot, but still it's an impressive looking vehicle, and at only 3,307 pounds, that is not very much for an elite EEV, especially one that has 671 horsepower and 741 pounds-feet of torque from its two synchronous electric motors, one for each axle, so it's all-wheel drive, and they are powered by 82 kilowatt-hour of batteries. So very impressive numbers. Even more impressive though is the fact that in qualifying mode it has 1073 horsepower, but this is only in track mode, or more specifically called race mode, and therefore it only has the 671. I say only, that is still a lot of power, and it's got all of that torque to go with it as well, so it's a mighty powerful thing and all that, but it's definitely not the most powerful EV ever. But then again, this is certainly one of the lighter EVs that we've ever seen, so all very good in that regard. And you've got a camera for your rear mirror in the centre of the console there. Then you've got all your information on the actual steering wheel and some buttons there, but very sparse as you'd expect for a racing car, especially again to keep the weight down. So really rather impressive looking vehicle. Like I said, it's easily one of my favourite looking racers. It's not typical that I like the look of a racing car, because usually it's just another version of a car that we already have, just not as nice looking, as it's got all the extra bits on it. But obviously this is a bespoke racing car, it's not based on another Porsche vehicle, even though those headlights do look a little like the Taycan. Regardless though, let's get out onto the open road and see what this car can do. So with all of that power, not much in the way of weight, and the obvious advantage of it being having all-wheel drive and electric power being near instantaneous, this is a really quick car in terms of acceleration. But typically electric cars don't have all that much in the way of top speed, so let's see what it can do before we hit the speed camera on this drag strip, and then we'll get it around the track and see what it gets like there. So we're going to do the launch control that we can do with these vehicles. Now that we've had the recent updates, let's see what it can do. Off the line we go. And as you probably already noticed, this is easily one of the loudest electric cars that we've ever had, but also one of the fastest. 157 miles an hour there is pretty damn good. Guaranteed you'd have to be getting alongside the likes of the Rimac to be getting up to that kind of speed in that kind of space of time. But obviously the Taycan is no slouch, but again that weighs a lot more than this and doesn't have that much in the extra way of power. So but the one big advantage of this is obviously with the lack of weight and all of the downforce that this has going on with its rear spoiler, rear diffuser, front spoiler, and the aerodynamic downforce of the body itself, is the handling, which is pretty damn great. And with the batteries being behind the driver, it's more of like a supercar, like I said, with its mid-engine layout, and near mid S2 class, easily one of the the highest class electric cars that we've had on this game. And by the stats, as you can see, it's pretty great. Handling and braking are excellent. Launch and speed are decent. Acceleration isn't the best, because obviously it's got quite a high top speed for an electric car, and that typically means it takes a little bit of while to get its acceleration up and go, but it's still by no means a slouch. The stat there by no means representing the raw numbers whatsoever, as we'll get to those in a second. But yeah, let's see what you can do around this track. I'll let you listen to the noise that this makes. Can't really call it an engine, but listen to the noise that this car makes first, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, it's easily one of the loudest electric cars going, making one of the more strange noises that I've heard from an electric vehicle. But it does just show how, you know, powerful the motors in this are, that they're making as much noise as they are, and it also helps that they are, you know, have some kind of like oil cooling going on with them to make them even more powerful. Not sure how it works, but it does sound interesting. But regardless, it's still a quick car, even with the 671 horsepower track mode that we have, as it can do 0 to 60 in 2.515 seconds, 0 to 100 in 5.1 seconds, and despite all of the aerodynamics and the fact it's an electric car, it can do 184 at the top end, which is really rather quick. It's easily quicker than other electric vehicles like the Taycan or the Audi e-tron, which usually are around 160, 170 are out of puff. So yeah, obviously the likes of the Rimac and the Lotus Evija are a lot quicker than that, but still, it's pretty quick, especially given it is a racing car at the end of the day. It's more meant for cornering and immediate acceleration than outright top speed. And in terms of handling, yeah, it's great. It's really well balanced. When you got it up to speed, you got all of the handling in the world because of the downforce. Granted, at slower speeds, the rear end can kick out a little bit, especially because of the weight being more predominantly in the middle towards the rear, rather than spread out like a lot of electric cars with it being on the underfloor. But still, it's only a minor flaw. It's only really because you don't have the downforce at slower speeds to keep the car on the ground as much as possible. So yeah, fantastic vehicle. I don't usually review racing cars, and I know I've said that for a few times now, but yeah, it is true, purely because, like I said, a lot of race cars are just typically you know, road-going versions of cars we already have, and they're not much more interesting than that, whereas this is obviously not based on any car that we've ever had before, and that alone makes it interesting. But then you've also got the look of the thing, you've got the fact that it's an electric car, and we don't have any electric races really that are normal on-track races. Obviously we've had the electric off-roaders, and they're fine, but yeah, this is a pure race car for the track, and that as well is interesting, and plus the noise that it makes, and you know, a whole host of other things. But yeah, still, you can get this by getting 20 points in the festival playlist. It's well worth getting, especially if you're into EVs like I am. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get something out of it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.